and evil, blah blah. This is... This is boring! The long-awaited Ahsoka show is finally out, and it's not good. I mean, I wasn't really that surprised, but I am amazed at how consistently bad all of these shows have been. All of them have been able to telegraph whether they'll be good or bad in their first few scenes. I was actually watching this episode carefully paying attention to see when the show would get stupid, and I didn't even have to wait 5 minutes. This honestly might be one of the worst openings to Star Wars since that. Now personally, I don't think that Ahsoka is the best idea for a protagonist. She was already the protagonist of a lot of stories in Clone Wars. Stories where she learned about the importance of humility and maturity. Stories where she let go of her hot-headedness in order to become a more understanding, fully fledged Jedi. And the thing is, by the end of Clone Wars, her character arc is basically complete. She's a true Jedi. So by this point, I think it's okay to relegate her to making small cameos in other shows with original characters. But if you're gonna make her appear in a spin-off show several years later as the main character, the worst thing you can do is reduce her to being another boring, strong character. Ahsoka was one of the most expressive characters in Clone Wars. She had a unique way of making her actions depict her emotional state. Being as immature as she was, she made many mistakes with very heavy consequences. But you were always able to see how she took in those consequences and let them sit in her mind. You watch as she realizes where she went wrong and what she needs to do to move forward. Over time, you can see her learn from Anakin that you should trust your own emotions when making decisions, which is why she is someone who relies on her judgment, but sometimes hesitates to take the judgment of others. She's also one of the more cheerful of the Star Wars characters. Unlike most of the other characters who take everything 100% seriously, Ahsoka usually reacts to what is happening more realistically, often making observational jokes. She brings a lot of levity to what would usually be a pretty dark show.
It was Master Skywalker who said, "I don't want to talk about my past."
Okay, fine. There's so much more we can talk about out here. Like the sand.
But this isn't a dark show. This takes place during the most peaceful time in Star Wars. This is supposed to be the time of the New Republic. Palpatine got thrown into a hole, the second Death Star exploded, the galaxy was saved. This should be a time of happiness. Ahsoka should especially be happy because Anakin destroyed the Emperor. So, how does she express her joy over the current situation?
Anger and frustration are quick to give power, but they also unbalance you.
In this show, I don't think she has expressed a single emotion outside of, I swear man, Kratos is a more cheerful character than Ahsoka.
I do not need a snack.
I really don't understand why the writers of Star Wars shows decide to make their protagonists feel like they're already done with their shows. Every line that this Ahsoka delivers feels like it's happening in slow motion. That's if she's speaking at all, because for some reason, the writers decide to make most of her scenes silent. One of the most verbal characters in Star Wars now barely says a word. And I know you can't have her going, well that's not good, and talking to herself in live action like she was in the animated show. But even when she's talking to other characters, she is so brutally cold and lifeless.
Great. Don't get me.
It's so dry. Where the original Ahsoka brought so much warmth and life to the show, this Ahsoka is such a stick in the mud that she kinda drags the other characters down with her. Hera and Sabine from Rebels are in the show. These are characters who are also pretty cheerful and playful with the rest of the cast, but once they have a single conversation with Ahsoka, it's like you just reminded them that their dog died. I just don't get it. What does Ahsoka have to be so sad about? The Empire collapsed, Anakin was redeemed, and his son is starting a new Jedi Order. Oh, but wait. It turns out that Ahsoka was bad to Sabine in some way. Off screen! Can I just say that I'm sick of this? Star Wars is supposed to be about triumph and characters getting their happy endings. But most of the Disney Star Wars stories start by stating that in between this and their last appearance, your favorite character did something stupid, and now they're back to being sad losers. This kind of writing to me is indicative that they couldn't come up with with a new story to tell with this character. So instead, they bring her down just so that she can pick herself back up from how she already was. It's what I like to call a zero-sum character arc, and it just highlights how pointless this story is. But on top of that, it has no connective tissue with the original character. This is another device that I see used not only in Star Wars but in Marvel as well. Oh, this character was awesome, but in this off-screen event they did something significant that is completely out of character, and now they're different. Don't question why or how it happened, that's just who they are now. Also, I want to say that she kind of looks bad in live action. Like, her eyes just looked very weird and devious. Like, the original actress looks fine, but then you put all that makeup and, well, you know.
What's wrong with your face?
Anyways, time for a Rian Johnson jump scare. Nah, but you know what? At least Rian Johnson had the guts to show us Luke holding the lightsaber, thinking about killing Kylo Ren. He didn't just have Luke go, well, I tried to kill him, but not really, just because he was afraid about what the fans would think. Like, the movie wasn't good, but at least he had the confidence and a desire to connect The Last Jedi to the rest of Star Wars. And I have not felt that confidence in any Star Wars project since. The reason people didn't like the sequel trilogy is because of how little connective tissue it had with the rest of Star Wars. But instead of writing Ahsoka in a way that expands on what her character is, you instead write a different character and make up a backstory that you never show that basically adds up to this character changed. Keep in mind that this is all written by Dave Filoni, the guy who created Ahsoka. He's really fallen off in the past decade, and I think people should really stop giving him the blind praise that he gets. I really thought that we had moved on from this style of writing Star Wars. I had held some hope that we might see the Ahsoka that we know and love in a show that is fun and exciting. But instead, they made the same crap as Obi-Wan, except that for some reason, people seem to really like this show. Like, why? I would have thought that people would have been mad about the mistreatment of the characters. But hey, they got Mr. Krabs, everyone's favorite character from Star Wars Rebels. Everyone's really losing it over this guy.
Why do I gotta be the one to deal with this shit?
Never mind that Sabine has been turned from one of the most lively and energetic characters to a whiny child. That scene where she has to solve that Treasure Planet gizmo, where you see her slowly looking around, thinking, pulling all of these overlays and schematics, then looks back and forth from the map into the diagram for like a minute. Then she just turns these 3 dials and solves it and acts like she just completed this grand challenge. Like, bro, this is a puzzle that you give to 5th graders. And keep in mind that this is the show that is eventually supposed to have Grand Admiral Thrawn.
What's wrong with your face?
Sabine gets stabbed by a lightsaber and she doesn't die. And now everyone's arguing over the logistics of lightsaber wounds. It's really just bad writing and there's no excusing any of it. Disney seems to be banking on these shows getting watched by people who are interested in these characters, but now we're reaching a point where they're starting to run out of characters that people actually want to see. Star Wars just no longer has a ready-to-go audience. You actually have to make a show that is good on its own, with characters that are developed in their own stories. All of the characters from Clone Wars and the mainline movies have all gone through plenty of stories and development. Now we want to see someone else. That's why people liked Andor, because that show stands on its own. So make more of that, please. I don't want to see any more of these fill-in-the-blank stories. I don't care if you make a Captain Rex show or whatever. I don't want to watch it. Alright, I promise to start working on wonderful villains again. That's all I got for this video. Goodbye!